Hello, I'm Ian, and this is Somerset News Network. Government cuts. With this Labour government, they want to spend money, but they think if they cut, then it looks like they're saving money. Do you see how it works? Sleight of hand. Now, they tried to cut PIP payments, and the backbenchers revolted, and they had to cut it back. So the 5 million reduction in government spending on PIP is now £1 million more. Isn't it good, eh? Well, why do the government want to cut money from the vulnerable? Now, if somebody's getting PIP and they're not ill, or they haven't got a disability, then yes, that should be cut. There are some cases that I know around this village where people are getting PIP and they shouldn't be entitled to it. It's quite simple. So why don't they target those rather than wipe it out for everybody? You know, you just can't have a blanket ban. It's got to be fair. And the ones that they used to say swinging the lead, need to be cut out of the system. And I don't argue with that. Now, where could government save money? Now, I was a civil servant for 6 years. I worked in an office block, and when I started, they had 1,900 people in 17 floors of office block. And I worked on all floors over my 6 years. There was transport, there was the environment, there was a planning inspectorate, and other offices. Nobody knew what they did. But it was all government civil service stuff. They used to get, when I started, it was 1992, something like that, I started. I was there for 6 years, till 99 or 98 at least, somewhere around there. Now, they used to have a pallet of paper a week come in and go up to the photographic room and to other offices. A pallet of paper a week for 1,900 people. Now, they went paper free, right? This is the good bit. They went paper free. So everybody had computer terminals, and every section now had a printer. So instead of a letter being written, going off to the secretaries, being printed, checked, and then going back and retyped, and another piece of paper printed, you think, oh, isn't it wasting money? They got a computer now, they can edit on the computer and then print it off themselves. But where they used to write minutes, a little note used to be on A5 paper and put in the file. It's now done on the computer, and we've got to keep a paper copy as well as a computer copy. So it doubles the work. You've got to put it into the computer, file it on the computer, and then you've got to print a copy off and put it in the file. But it's now A4, not A5. So you're doubling the amount of paper that you're using. The photocopy room also uses paper and copies. And sometimes whole files might be 8 boxes for one case that you're working on. All have to be copied, and it goes to the copy room, and they copy it all on the machine, and then they give you 16 boxes back. And this is the way it goes on. So by the time I left 6 years later, 1 pallet a week became 2 pallets a week. So that's really saving money, isn't it? All these computers that everybody's got to try and stop you using paper, and they're now using twice as much paper. This is how the civil service works. And I was instructed to do 7 units a day. And we had a timesheet. And you had to put down the number of units you did and what they were. Which was fair enough. But I was doing 9 units a day. And the same amount of time. And I got called into the office. Ian, what's this? You're overworking. I said, well, I'm paid to work from 8 till 4:30 and 4 o'clock on a Friday. I said, and I've got time to do extra, but it's not costing the government any more money. So I'm doing 8 or 9 a day instead of 7 a day. What I didn't know was we were going to be privatised as a unit and become an agency. And they were using these timesheets to show how much work we did. So what they wanted to do, I think, was let us do 7 a day, then become an agency, and then allow me to do 8 or 9 a day, which meant the agency was doing better than the civil service. That's what I think. But I can't prove it. But once again, it was becoming an agency, which meant a company was then making money. I didn't see the logic in it. You know, it's just craziness. And the money they spend and waste. You know, pens, paper, you know, computers. Everybody had to have a computer screen. And then they changed the computers. And sold off the early computers, which were, I don't know, 1086s or whatever they were, and bought in Pentium 1. Then they had Pentium 2, so they all changed again. I think they were on Pentium 2 when I left. And I was thinking, this is crazy. The amount of money it's costing. Pentium 1 was all right, and people were quite happy with it. But oh no, got Pentium 2, you know. But today, what have we got? We have the government spending money like it's going out of fashion. We've got Mad Ed Milliman. What is it, £5 billion he's got to create solar farms and wind farms? Now, let's just look at this. The government isn't nationalising solar panel or wind power. It's giving the grants to companies that make a profit. Now they're supposed to be socialists. So we're giving a grant for a solar farm. Now I've got solar panels on my roof. I get 16.5 pence a unit. These guys that are making these wind farms are getting a government grant, and then they're not getting 16.5 pence a unit, or even less because they got a government grant, say 10 pence a unit. They're getting 35 pence a unit. And they ain't paying the money back that they got from the government. It's illogical. Now, I can understand the government giving the company a loan, even an interest-free loan. But then the government could claw the money back over rent, you know, the power that's produced. So if they're going to say that it's worth 35 pence a unit, government could have at least 15 or 20 pence of that back to recover the money that they've lost. But if you take E.ON, for instance, they get the money from the solar wind farms at 35 pence, but they can only sell it to you for 24.5 pence a unit. You know, how can they be given 35 pence a unit when they're only selling it for 24.5 pence a unit? It just doesn't add up. You know, a normal business won't work like that. It's only because of the government subsidies. Now, the government want to cut PIP, personal independent payments. So if you're disabled, now I got arthritis in the hips and I don't walk very well, and I get the minimum PIP payments, but that's helped me buy a wheelchair, helped me buy a mobility scooter, helped me buy a pediatric bed so I can get up and down out of bed, you know, and it helps me. But you've got people on PIP that aren't disabled, that don't qualify for it. And it's what they used to call swinging the lead. But now they want to do people with learning difficulties. They want to cut the payments to people with learning difficulties and the help and support that they can get. Why is it always the vulnerable they cut and not the government waste, like the waste on solar panels, on solar farms? Net zero is a scam. It was a scam created. They made CO2 a greenhouse gas. CO2 is a natural forming gas. It's plant food. We are carbon-based life forms, believe it or not. $400 million years ago, time of the dinosaurs, there was 2,500 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. That's why you've got big trees. That's why you've got the coal fields, because it all collapsed. But there wasn't the bacteria then to kill the trees, so they petrified, and that's where we got coal from. And over the years, that CO2 level has been dropping. It's now around about 300. Some people say it's 300, some say it's 400, you know, all according which survey you get. But it's round about 300 and dropping. CO2 is not a problem. Net zero and cutting carbon will only mean in less plants, and the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere dropping, which means the plants will grow smaller. And they make greenhouses. That's the word I was looking for. I used to help out in the greenhouses, snipping tomato plants and watering them and planting them on into bigger pots ready to go out. And I used to go down on a Saturday and Sunday and help out, because the girls that worked in the week wanted to stay home with their kids, which is understandable, but it meant I had weekend work, and I worked in the greenhouse. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was pocket money for me. I was, what, 14, 15 at the time? Now, out the back, we had a great big gas bowl. CO2. When we all go home at night, the doors were closed and they pumped CO2 in, because the CO2 made the plants grow bigger. It's the way it worked. You know, now they're talking about putting that CO2 and doing carbon capture and put it in the ground. CO2 and net zero is a scam. it's done to tax you. And who's going to have the majority of the 5 billion that mad Ed Miliband has? Wind turbines, made in China. Solar panels, made in China. You getting the picture? How much backhanders are they getting? From China. I'm only suggesting. Not saying they are, but they seem to get a lot of freebies, don't they, these MPs? Think about it. Oh, we have to wake up to the tyranny of a government that has not got the interests of its people at the heart of it. We are not going to see government. They're going to spend more money. And what are they going to do? They're going to tax the ordinary guy. The big guys, the guys that got money, the millionaires, they're all leaving. So they won't be here to tax anyway. With the internet now, you can run a business from anywhere in the world. You don't need to be in Britain. So if they're going to get taxed, they're going to go abroad and run their business on computers. They don't need to be here anymore. I got one of my customers is into finance. Don't know exactly what he does because he hasn't told me. But he'll go on holiday for a month. And he always seems to be on holiday for a month. And he works while he's on holiday. He says, oh, I'll take my laptop with me. I have conference calls. I just make sure that the hotel I'm staying in has got Wi-Fi. He went on safari in Africa and took Starlink with him, which is Elon Musk's thing. You can get satellite dishes anywhere. You know, the company doesn't need to be at home to work. And he's running a thriving business. He tells me that he doesn't want to go and live abroad. He doesn't mind going on holiday for a month here and here and there and still work and work remotely. But he couldn't do it 24/7 from abroad. He likes to be here, he likes to be hands-on. But he also wants to enjoy is what he calls semi-retirement. He said he works for about 4 hours a day while he's on holiday. And he keeps his businesses ticking over. And he's also something to do with the hedge fund, but I don't know anything about that. You know, and I said, well, where do I put my money? And he wouldn't tell me. You know, this, they keep it all close to the chest. They don't tell you anything. But I repair his guns for him. Maybe he's a happy little boy. You know. But other people are going to move. So all the money that Labour think they're going to get from millionaires, they're going to go abroad, and they ain't going to be here to tax because they won't be able to get taxed. The Labour Party tried to tax expats with money, but that fell down. Oh, that fell through, didn't it? So this government's got to wake up, listen to us, the people. Sometimes us know what we're talking about. It's basic logic. You can't keep taking money off people. The more money you take off me means, yeah, the government might have more money in the coppers, but they'll in Labour, they'll spend it all and still be in debt. Therefore, they want more money. Now, if you take money from me I pay my taxes every year. I moved and I had to build my workshop, and last year I made a loss because I spent £15,000 on rebuilding my workshop. Now, if the money I get in, I'm taxed more on, say they put VAT up to 25%, which is something they might do, then we all pay more. Which means I've then got less money to spend. And if I've got less money to spend, means I don't spend it outside and give it to other people so that they can run a business. I don't go out to the pub and have a meal. And if I can't afford to go out to the pub and have a meal, the pub's closed. That's what's happening around the country. You have to give people money so they can spend it as they want. 20% VAT is fair enough. I think it should be 15, but there you are. What the government have got to do is figure out where it can save money, not take more money off of me. They ain't going to cut the government waste. They ain't got to do what Elon Musk did in America. Because no doubt that the Conservative and Labour governments over time have done the same sort of thing as Biden was up to. Using the government money, giving grants to NGOs, who give it to other NGOs, and then nobody knows where the money goes. And I expect some of it ended up going back to MPs. It's what was happening in America. Hillary Clinton's daughter, Chelsea, received money from Archewell, Harry and Meghan's charity. Harry and Meghan's charity got it off an NGO who got the money off of USAID. You see how the scam works? And I expect it's happening here too. But we haven't got any proof. Somebody, as they say, has got to follow the money and cut government waste. Anyway, Ian, bye for now.